Okay, we are live. Welcome to the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast. I am your host, Chris Kirkwood, screen name Kirk D's, here with only one out of the two co-hosts this week. We're missing JSU, who's going to be away at the Big T compound. God knows what they're doing over there. All I know is that me and Bobby are here. Bobby Gomes, DFS. We're going to break down the slate, just the two of us this week, do the best we can. And then JSU will be back next week. But how's it going, Bobby?
Going well. Happy to be hopping on here, getting into week 6. This is week 6, correct? Pretty sure.
Week 6, buys. We got some teams on buys.
Yeah, wow. It's going by fast, but I think we're going to do well. We'll do a good job breaking this down.
I got smashed last week because I went with Brandon Cooks over Tyler Lockett. And so that was my I was so heavy, and I said it all to show too. I was so heavy on that Jacksonville Texans game, and that game was just the worst possible game ever. So that was pretty bad. It cost me. I did all right with on DK with a Kyler stack, which was good enough. You know, it wasn't great, but good enough to cash. But I got smashed on Yahoo because of that one decision, that 1v1. Whatever. This week, getting it all back and then some. How'd you do?
I had a good week. I had a single entry build that did well. Cashed in the 2K, cashed in the 444. Did well on MME. So, yeah, I had a good positive plus EV week overall. It was a weird build.
Plus EV or plus money?
Plus money. So I basically went double tight end. I was like Goddard and Kate Otten worked out that way, getting the savings.
Yeah.
Just kind of flipped the construction a little. Yep.
Nice. Let's keep the momentum rolling this week. This week we've got 11 games. You know, we're one short of a game here because we do have some teams on bye. We have 2 games north of 50-point totals. We've got Buffalo -3 at the Chiefs in kind of the marquee game of the week, the late hammer, 53.5-point total. And then the other highest total is also in the late 4 o'clock set of games with Arizona -2.5 at Seattle. Seattle is just, their defense has just been atrocious. And, you know, Geno Smith has been awesome. I mean, I just have to say it. I never expected it at this week 6, Geno Smith would be a thing. I guess it just proves that the blitz knows all. The blitz has been on Geno every week, so blitz knows all, and we know nothing. But got to give it up to him. And then other than that, the games kind of drop off to where the next highest is 45.5-point total. We got a little package of those. We got a four pack of those. Minnesota -3 at Miami Dolphins. Then we have Baltimore -3.5 at the Giants with a 45.5-point total. The Jets at Green Bay 7.5-point favorites with a 45.5-point total. And then Tampa, Tom Brady -8.5 points at Pitt with a 45 total. And then we just have a bunch of games, but we do have some plays. We do have some injuries. We do have stuff that opened up, but big picture, how's it looking to you?
Yeah, the value running backs are going to be the theme of the week. For me, it's like you play the value, you spend up to the good plays, and that's pretty much the slate.
Yeah, there's a ton of running back plays, and we'll get into that in a second, all in that 5 to 6K kind of range. And, you know, Benjamin is now certainly a thing as the cheapest of the bunch. We'll get into that in a second. So what I always like to do is start off the show. I like to look at the Blitz most plays, which this week, you know, not surprised to see Buffalo at Kansas City as the most plays. KC games have averaged the second most points. KC's also haven't been so great against the pass, you know, and Buffalo is certainly just, you know, all systems go here this year. Josh Allen's just amazing. This, you know, if this game is anything like their playoff game or their last few games that they've played, then we should have a ton of fantasy points to go around in that one. Next card he has Tampa Bay at Pitt as the next most plays, and then Jacksonville, Indianapolis Colts, surprisingly, for number 3. I always cross-check that with Dorman snaps and pace over from establish the run. They have up and pace for the Bills at Kansas City, up and pace for Arizona at Seattle, up and pace for Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. So those are kind of the games that I always like to kind of key in on first, and then break down the chalk here, and then deviate some plays. But let's start right to it with the running back position. This is where there's value galore. So right off the bat, from a chalk standpoint, Benjamin, with James Conner out, Darrell Williams out, Ward is also out. I mean, it's just Benjamin is pretty much all they got. I think they signed Corey Clement to the practice, he wasn't even on the practice squad. I don't think. I don't even know where, but he's Philly's old running back. We're certainly familiar with the name, but can't imagine he's going to do much. So Benjamin should be in line for a massive amount of snaps, good volume. It's a great matchup. Great game, environment with Arizona at Seattle with the high total. Seattle's 24th in DVOA versus the run. You can basically their defense has been atrocious, both angles. So Seattle 32nd in rushing yards per game allowed, third most receiving yards to running backs. So 4,600. I mean, how do we fade this guy? And then we'll also talk about Ramandre Stevenson, who both of us are very familiar. That's where I got hurt last week. I played both New England running backs in the same lineup. I said on the show that I was gonna do that on our Grinders Live, and unfortunately Harris got hurt. I did call the Pats defense out, which I correlated with it, and that was great until it didn't really matter because the Cowboys did the same thing. So. The chalk got there. Were you on the chalk, Cowboys?
Yeah, I was on the chalk. It's tough not to be right at 2,500 with the defense as the line it has, and then the way they turn the ball over. Obviously they got the touchdown early, but so I'm starting to come around to just not Xing chalk pretty much, just letting it hit if it hits. So I'm building 500 teams anyway, so I don't really. What I really think about is how I'm going to play it and differentiating it and stuff like that.
Yep. All right. So what are your thoughts on Benjamin? What are your thoughts on Ramandre Stevenson? I mean, Stevenson looks like a smash. I mean, he's going to be – we know what New England's doing. They're just going to run. They're set up to – great offensive line is set up to run. Cleveland dead last, 32nd in DVOA versus the run. Ramandre once Harris went down last week. He had 90% of the snaps, 27 touches. We know he's effective. He's a great runner. We've always known that. He's third in yards after contact per rush. He's Pro Football Focus's third graded rusher. We've been saying it each week that he's the talent on this New England team. We're Pats fans. We know this. This is what we always thought. He's also electric in the passing game, but now he gets the whole show. So this is exactly what we wanted. Unfortunately, we don't want him at 40+% owned. But so how are you tackling those two pieces to start, and then what are some of the other plays you're looking at?
Yeah, so I actually don't think Ramandre is going to be as highly owned as he was going to be relative to the Cam Akers news with Darrell Henderson becoming chalky. Henderson, Walker, Benjamin, I think those guys, and Ramandre, you just make a group at most two pretty much. Seems like if I had to rank them, he'd be the one that I'd be the most comfortable with. I think people are
oh my God, I'm the most comfortable with Ramandre.
So I thought that too. I don't mind Ramandre. I think he's a good play. I just think at 4,600, it's you just take it, right? Both of those team totals moved up 2 points since the start of the week. So I don't know. Seems like you're going to want him in higher stake stuff, and then he's just the linchpin. That sounds very scary to say that. Going to be putting a lot of emphasis on Benjamin, but I don't know. I don't mind it for the price tag. Henderson at 5-1. Everyone hates Darrell Henderson. I like Darrell Henderson. I actually think he's okay. So I don't mind playing him. Kenneth Walker, that's where I'd have some skepticism, right? The two, Metcalf and Lockett are going to pop pretty hard in projections. Kenneth Walker's a rookie. he's 5.4K. Like, I'd rather just go to Ramandre there. I'd probably put Ramandre in front of Kenneth Walker for me. But I'm going to be playing all these guys, but I think the key rule is at most 2 when you're using the opt-out.
Yeah, I would consider even maybe at most 1, but I haven't made up my mind yet. But I mean, they're all good plays. Like we're not like these are strong. Well, Kenneth Walker, he's probably my least favorite, to be honest with you.
Yeah. He's gonna be the cash game guy. Like I don't think it's gonna be Ramandre unless you can get value and people move down to like a Gentry or not and a tight end or Hayden Hurst. Then they go to Ramandre maybe.
I mean, I can't envision a world where you don't play Ramandre in this. So I was assuming he was going to be chalk, but maybe I'm off on my read. And maybe, I mean, is Darrell Henderson really going to affect it that much? I mean, he was going to be massive chalk.
They basically brought Malcolm Brown off the street, so he's obviously familiar with the Rams. So there you can poke holes in it. Like he's going to see work on like passing downs. He's 5'1". For me, like I'd put Ramandre ahead of Kenneth Walker personally. I think Ramandre's a good play either way, but I just don't think he's going to be as highly owned as he was prior to the Akers news.
All right, Kenneth Walker. So everyone's assuming he's going to smash. It's against Arizona. The thing is Arizona is so bad in the passing game. They've been somewhat decent in the run from a DVOA standpoint, but they still they're still 26 in explosive run rate allowed, which is bad. So they're letting up the big plays. I don't know. Seattle, I mean, he does have really good, metrics. Kenneth Walker, I believe in him as a talent. I was into him when we were drafting best ball and whatnot and stuff like that. But Seattle game has just been more passing. They've been the fourth worst backfield for fantasy points on the season. And this is a game with the 2 worst coverage units, right? From a passing standpoint. So if this game I get it, like the opportunity's there for sure, right? In a high total game, but I just would much rather just jam this passing attack in with Lockett and Metcalf and just not play Walker. But that's just the way I'm leaning at this point. But other than that, we have like so many more other good plays too. So we have other ways to get different. I mean,
I feel similarly to you, like Kenneth Walker over Ramandre. Like I'd rather Ramandre.
Yeah.
For the 600 more,
And Breece Hall's been ridiculous, 30 points, fantasy points in his last game, 18 rushing attempts, 97 yards, did get 2. He had 100 yards in receiving yards against Miami.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy to me. But, the only thing is that the Michael Carter with the vulture touchdowns, but the way I look at it is like it keeps getting more and more in Breece Hall's favor. He does have more red zone opportunities than Michael Carter. It's just Michael Carter's gotten touchdowns, so it's just kind of dumb luck. If you throw those touchdowns on top of what he's already done, he'd be like the biggest smash this season. So Green Bay is a great matchup for him. They're 30th in DVOA versus the run, 27th in explosive run rate allowed. There's just a lot of good stuff to say about Breece Hall in this game. There was also plenty of other options. We also have Alvin Kamara, who looked really good. I liked him a lot, and a lot of people didn't like him last week. The crazy thing is he didn't get any touchdowns, and he scored 27 fantasy points. He looked like, he keeps getting vultured by Taysom, who that threat is still there this week for sure. But I mean, at any time you can get him in at this price range, and certainly with the usage, 23 rushing attempts, 6 targets, 6 receptions. We know how electric he is in the dome against Cincinnati. This could be a good game. So like that. And then we didn't even talk about Saquon, who's going to be the easy bring back if you want to play Lamar and Andrews together. But what are your thoughts on like Saquon, Hall, Kamara, kind of those guys?
Yeah, Breece Hall at 5'8". I don't mind. Like if you think about it, what's the best defense versus Aaron Rodgers to run the football? So You got a talent like Hall, you kind of want to use him in that situation. He's not going to be chalky relative to these other running backs. A.J. Dillon, 5'6", on the other side of that game. Like, everyone's hopping on the Aaron Jones bandwagon. I could see Dillon just being the guy because
full disclosure.
Yeah.
You're a Dillon guy. You're a Dillon guy in general.
I'm a Dillon guy in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Dillon guy in general. Should have pointed that out. J.K. Dobbins, 5'5". Giants run D isn't. I'm pretty sure do you have a DVOA for Giants run D?
Yeah, I'll get that for you.
I don't think they're great. Like, I wouldn't mind Dobbins, especially if you're playing like
21st.
Yeah, I don't mind Dobbins.
24th in the passing game.
Travis Etienne down at 5K. Feel like there's possibility for a breakout there. Everything's been going up. Seems like he's trending in the right direction. So those are for the cheap guys that I have the most interest in. Then when you go up top, like Singletary, well, it's basically up to 6K. I think Singletary, these are the games that like Singletary's utilized a ton, so I don't mind him at 5'9". He's right under Stevenson. Jeff Wilson at 6'2". I don't know. For me, like 6'2" is kind of a hefty tag to play Wilson. I feel like Debo could see more carries this week. It could just change. Kamara, like you said, the 4 TD, Taysom got him for 4 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, and he threw for 1. So, but at 6,700, he put up 27 points. This Bengals defensive line is completely banged up. I think they lost their best like run stuffer, so I think he makes a ton of sense. Joe Mixon on the other side. I can't play Joe Mixon. 6'9" is cheap for everything that he does, but I just can't do it. Fournette, 10 targets last week. I think that this game's like kind of sneaky, just because the passing rate over expectation probably for both these teams is going to be pretty high. It is for Tampa Bay, and we just saw Pitt throw the ball as much as they did. Fournette's going to be utilized in the passing game. I wonder if Fournette's going to like lose. I think he was going to be chalky prior to all this Akers news. Maybe he comes down a little. You hit on Barkley. I think he's a great run back for like Lamar teams. Lamar team's going to be low owned. I feel like a lot of sharper players are going to go with Lamar and play Barkley as the run back. JT, if he plays, if Nyheim Hines sits, well, either way, like 8K is too cheap. I think he's in a really good spot. I think that's a game a lot of people are going to try to target for tournament upside. I don't mind it. I don't mind JT at all. But I really like CMC this week. Like, I think this is the CMC week. I know they're going up against the Rams. I know it's PJ Walker. The way you beat the Rams is you run the football at Aaron Donald. I think they're going to do a lot of that. He's going to catch a lot of passes. 8,300 is super cheap for CMC on a PPR site. I just think like this is going to be a great week for Christian McCaffrey. Skipped over Nick Chubb going against the Pats. I actually think Chubb's a good play.
I'm going to pat my back for really touting Nick Chubb pretty hard last week. He smashed as delivered, but unfortunately there was a lot of other smashes too.
Yeah, he was a good piece.
Ramandre.
He's always a good player, right? Like, I don't mind. Can you play Chubb and Ramandre together? I would say so. I think that Patriots stack, like, no one's going to play Myers. I wouldn't be playing Zappy, but if you're playing Ramandre and want to play him differently, play Zappy, Ramandre, Myers, and Chubb as the run back. I don't know. I think you're getting too crazy there with it. That total can't be high at all. I would probably stay away, but I'm just brainstorming, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much it. CMC is my guy. I think this is a CMC week.
You hit on a lot. And Jeff Wilson, I just don't see we needed him last week. I just don't. There's just too many more plays in that same range, even for a little cheaper, that I think have more upside because they're more included in the passing game. So the thing that you did hit on, is the pass rate over expectation for the Bucs. They're 23% and 18% pass rate over expectations in week 4 and week 5. And that's first and second in the league in each week. And I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out. I mean, it's just their weapons are healthier these last 2 weeks, right? Like Godwin's rolling, Mike Evans is rolling. So they utilized Lenny in the passing game. So the thing that was our worry last week was about White stealing a bunch of work, making more of a split. And you know what? He did. It was a 60-40 split, in snaps, but Fournette got 10 targets from Brady, and you can't discount that role, right? Because Brady has always used his passing running backs, and so Fournette is definitely that piece. We thought maybe they would lean off of him a little bit to keep him healthy, and the snaps are. I mean, he is getting his snaps eaten into, but the role is just so valuable that it just shows what he can do. I mean, 36 fantasy points last week was just ridiculous. If you didn't have him, you were definitely upset.
There's one other I had. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in that game, the Bills-Chiefs, but McKinnon just looks like he's the guy for whatever reason. Like I feel like in a game like this, McKinnon's going to be more. They're going to like. I don't know.
Well, so. It's in games where they're trailing, right?
Yeah,
right?
In games where they're trailing and then like tighter games.
And we just saw that.
They trust him so much more, it seems like. Or Mahomes trusts him, and he just gets the job done. So at 4,700, he's right above, Benjamin. Not like I don't think I'd pivot off, but he's still very cheap, and this game's the highest. He's in the highest total game in the slate. Be more a large field play.
I mean, so he's going to get extremely, extremely low ownership.
Yeah,
in the marquee game. But the thing is, so he looked really good. He didn't do a ton of production, but what we got the game script right for him, where the Chiefs were actually trailing. What were they down? Like 17 points.
They were down a good bit, right?
And so then it just became the McKinnon show. And normally we don't, it's usually they're out to a big lead, But if there's a game that they theoretically should be trailing in, it's probably against the Bills, right? Like, and their Bills are actually favored in this game, in KC. So I'm with you. I think McKinnon looked good. I worry about like the total upside. But then again, Kelsey had every touchdown in that game. You throw one extra touchdown on there for McKinnon. If he got in, then it would be a different story. And so
he gets targeted near the goal line too. Like he threw him. There was a pass that got batted down. That was going to be a touchdown for McKinnon if he catches it.
I mean, you can play that game a lot of different ways. Like I like you saying Singletary. Like we saw that one game against Miami where he had 11 targets, 9 catches for 78 yards. This could be a game where they need him in the passing game, and no one's going to play him. So that would be interesting. Would you play him would you get real different and just actually play him with Josh Allen, or is that just being too?
I think you could play him with Josh Allen. Like maybe his ceiling with all these value running backs, maybe. The ceilings that they potentially have, maybe his ceilings kind of capped relative to those guys, but he's still in the highest total game. We have seen Allen in situations like this utilize him, especially tight games. He becomes the guy pretty much. So I don't mind getting to Singletary with
Allen. Who else? Anyone? I mean, we've said a lot here. The thing I worry about J.K. Dobbins, I know you mentioned him, but he only got 8 rushing attempts.
He only got 8, really?
Yeah, against the Bengals. Let me pull up his snap rate too. I mean, it's like they're probably just trying to keep him, healthy, but it's like, it's tough to trust it. I get it for GPPs. Like, we know the kind of talent he is, and I'm sure that's what you're thinking here. But yeah, he only had 40% of the snaps last week.
Yeah, I don't love that. I didn't realize he got those carries were as down.
Yeah, they were using Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake got 40%, 42% out-snapped him.
Why are they doing this? Just let him play at this point. You have 6 different running backs.
I know, it's crazy. And then you have the best runner in the league in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
They do a lot of weird stuff.
Yep. What else am I missing? So on the high end, Jonathan Taylor, if he's questionable. I know we talked a little bit before show. You think he's going to play. I do think he's going to play, but at least it did sound like that he is genuinely questionable. But if he's good to go, I think people are going to be sleeping on him. He'll get a little action, but not much. And certainly if like Nyheim Hines is out again after that concussion, which, man, that crushed my soul on whatever showdown that was, when it was like, because of my freaking son was crying right before I was uploading. I had to calm him down. I went back to upload all my lineups in showdown. I missed it by 1 second. I got stuck with a 150 train in showdown, which is the worst. And then it was all Nyheim Hines anyway. So it was like even the min cash was out of play once that happened. That, the first play I look up on, his movement was just,
that's another big thing.
Scary to watch.
These guys that we're rostering, like if they're concussion prone, I think we said it like about Bridgewater last week. Like I forgot, someone brought up playing Miami, and I was just like, Bridgewater's going to leave that game at some point. So I wouldn't want to touch it. When he left, I don't even think he should have left the game, but because of the situation with the concussions and stuff, they just pulled him. So a lot of people play that Miami stack were stone dead.
Dalvin Cook looked good last week, but the worry part there was against the Bears, and he only got 2 targets, 2 receptions. So he's just not running the same routes and utilizing the passing game that he has been in years past. And that might be just variance at this point, but it also may be a direct, what the team is trying to hold him back, and make sure he stays healthy and whatnot, taking that off of his plate. So I don't really know. But I do have interest in him. I know no one's going to really play him. It's not the greatest of all matchups here, but if I can get Dalvin Cook at like 7,500, which is kind of reasonable in a game which I think could go off, this Minnesota-Miami game. Obviously we're missing, we're in a tough quarterback situation, but he looked pretty good, did Skylar Thompson in that game. I don't know. He didn't put up good numbers or anything, but like I thought he looked competent. And you got the 2, another week of practice. You got the 2 best yard after the catch receivers who were banged up, last week, but are both. I think they're off the injury report, both of them. This final one here for Tyreek and Waddle, so they're both ready to go. I definitely like Justin Jefferson, so I don't know. It's just I have some interest in Dalvin Cook at that price tag and that ownership.
Yeah. I'm always like skittish about playing these guys going into Miami or teams going to Miami, especially teams going to Miami from like New England or Minnesota for that matter, just because
it's like Las Vegas to them.
It's like Las Vegas pretty much, and you never know if guys are out partying or however it's going to go. But yeah, I don't hate the Dalvin call. That game would have been like, I feel like extremely would have been like, I feel like a lot of people would have tried to get on that game if there was a competent quarterback outside of Skyler there, because Minnesota's secondary really can't cover receivers. And then you have 2 burners like Tyreek and Waddle. Just seems like a nightmare matchup.
Yeah. Mostert looks pretty good. He's certainly
he's pulling away. It seems like he's going to be.
Oh, he's pulled away.
Yeah,
it's his, right? Unless like things, funny things happen and they change from week to week. But all indications are that it's his backfield, and it's the Shanahan system. So I've always liked Mostert. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. But as long as he's healthy, I think he's kind of a beast, and I think he looks awesome. So I'm on board with playing him at that price. So we just have too many plays. But there's just a ton here. So you got to hit running back this week, right? Like this is really important. So because we've got these low prices on these guys with monster workloads, and then that will take away from some of the high end plays. Like who could separate, right? Like Saquon, Kamara, these guys could, Jonathan Taylor, these guys could absolutely crush Ramandre, Benjamin, Kenneth Walker, and none of us would be shocked whatsoever. But if they fail, I mean, you're dead, right? Like,
yeah. I think you made a really good call on Mostert. Like, if he breaks one, it's completely gone versus that secondary. Like, they have the slowest corners in the league, slowest safeties, and they're not going to be catching him. And he has that speed too, where it's like good night if he gets going.
Good matchup from both angles too. Minnesota's 26th in passing DVOA, but they're 22nd in rushing DVOA. But definitely a good matchup for both sides. All right. Anyone else I'm missing here, or that you're gonna be including in your pool that we haven't talked about?
I think we hit on everyone. Do you have any thoughts on CMC, or you prefer Taylor?
I don't know. I really don't. I'm scared of them being just awful this week with PJ Walker. So, and there's so many other plays that I like. I get it. Like the old Christian McCaffrey, who still is Christian. It's the same Christian McCaffrey. It's just a tougher situation. But I mean, he's never had a good situation. And he's rattled off 2 solid games in back-to-back weeks. Got 12 targets last week against San Francisco in a tough matchup. So yeah, I get it. It's just I like too many already. Like I like Saquon. The thing I like about Saquon is that I kind of, for some reason the Giants are playing everybody competitive. So okay, I gotta accept that, right? And the Ravens games can go off absolutely. And Baltimore is allowed the second most receptions to running backs and 5th most receiving yards to running backs. So that just like fits perfectly for Saquon in a big PPR game. So if the Giants can play this game right, and Baltimore scores like we think they should be able to score, and Saquon could just get peppered in a come from behind mode here. And yeah, I like that a lot.
I think that's a good call. Like, I like Duvernay, Andrews, Lamar. So I think that game stack in general is very interesting.
So long story short, I'm going to need to be sold. I'm going to need to come to grips with, playing CMC on the road in LA. I still think the Rams defense is pretty good. And I think PJ Walker, this is a tough spot for PJ Walker. Maybe he'll shock me and they'll be better. I mean, you can't be much worse than Baker.
I think the industry narrative is he's absolutely horrendous, and I think he's probably more competent than Baker. Like, he can manage the game. He's a game manager, right? He's going to get hit. Like, he's going to get sacked. That D-line's going to get to him. But if they're playing from behind, maybe they settle him into a zone a little bit. He can kind of move the ball enough to where I don't have an issue rostering McCaffrey. I would have more of an issue rostering PJ Walker and McCaffrey. Wouldn't do that, but I think McCaffrey's still in play for that reason.
All right, noted. I'll let you convince me more on Sunday morning, and then I'll throw them in when I start building. All right, let's move that over to quarterback. We're going to try to make this show a lot less lengthy since it's only 2 of us this week. QBs, right? So we've got some good plays. We've got some heavy hitters. Like, it's worth prioritizing. I mean, so Josh Allen, 8,200 in the marquee game, gonna be chalky, but how chalky, I'm not so sure. To the point that it will matter too much. I mean, this is the game with the massive total. Josh Allen is 1st in passing yards, 2nd in passing TDs, 4th in QB rushing yards. Has averaged 40 fantasy points in the last 2 meetings with KC. Had a sick game last year in the playoffs. I mean, when I'm looking up their last 2, like, if you can give me a 40 burger, if this game plays out like the last 2 games did, then God, I mean, you're going to want Josh Allen. So, I mean, who cares? Everyone knows he's the man. So that's an easy play, and it's easy pairing him with Diggs. Gabe Davis nuked us. I know I didn't have enough. I didn't have barely any actually, of him. I wish I had it. I know you were tilting that on Sunday morning too. I mean, it was just the first one. Then the second one came. It was like, good night.
We said it on the Thursday show and we said it on the Sunday show. Like, play Gabe Davis this week. It's coming. And I was trying to force him in and didn't get enough of him. Like, didn't get him where I wanted him.
Other than that, the other big dog here is probably Kyler Murray for a little bit cheaper. I mean, there's Lamar 8,100. It's probably not the highest ceiling spot against the Giants here, but it might very well be. I mean, this game could pop off. 8,100 certainly is a Lamar is never a bad play. Nobody has the rushing upside like he does. Other than that, I'm sticking with Kyler. I played Kyler last week. I'm getting on board. I'm definitely can't wait till DeAndre Hopkins is back. But like I said, he's starting to run. So he had the 12 rushing attempts 2 weeks ago against Carolina. He had just 4, but he did run for 42 yards. So like that was a tough game against the Eagles, and the Eagles are a good D. So I'm just, and Rondell Moore is starting to look more competent. Hollywood Brown is his go-to. Zach Ertz is going to be Zach Ertz. He's going to catch some balls probably in the red zone too, a red zone opportunity. But I just think Kyler's going to keep getting better as this offense gets healthy. And this is like the other marquee game. These are the two worst, secondaries, going at it here. So this game could absolutely go nuclear. I know it's right. It kind of feels like chasing a little bit because we just saw, obviously everyone's all over this game after you had to have it last week, with Seattle and the Geno and Lockett, they just went nuclear. But these defenses are both atrocious for the passing game. So how can you not like little Kyler, at least, and I don't think he won't get played enough, in my opinion, because people are still sour on him.
And Eno's also chalk, right? Like, he's not going to get played enough for that reason. Like, people aren't going to want to, maybe if it's a way to differentiate Eno. The thing is, like, you take Connor out of there, he might be the primary runner this week. Like, maybe we see those attempts tick up. So I don't mind Kyler. I think Kyler's a super sharp call, personally, in that game.
Yeah, I'm playing him, so let's get it. Tom Brady is there at 6,300 in a game against Pitt, and this is the same thing like chasing from last week, but we just saw what Josh Allen did against Pitt, and basically a blowout and put up 39 fantasy points. Tom Brady is doesn't have that rushing upside that Josh Allen has, but does have the passing upside. I feel like they took their foot off the gas and made that game a lot more competitive than it needed to be against the Falcons last week. And, so maybe that's going to be in the back of their heads, and they're going to keep it on full throttle if things are going their way and they're having their way with Pitt, who's certainly looked like a very vulnerable defense. So, and all of his weapons are getting healthier. I don't know if Julio is going to be back or not, but really it just comes down to having all he needs is Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Leonard Fournette, and Brady will be just fine, in my opinion. Certainly in this matchup. And Pitt is 30th in passing yards allowed per game. So, I like some Brady here. His price is different. You just don't get that rushing upside. That it just feels better when you got Allen, when you got Lamar, you got Kyler, just knowing that you can get there with like a couple of rushing TDs. But what do you?
I'm with you. Like, I like Brady for all the same reasons that you do. Throws the ball a ton. Godwin's in that same range as like Lockett. He's going to be relatively chalky. Christian Kirk, who I would imagine is going to be relatively chalky. So don't mind going to him. He did see like a downgrade in terms of like his overall playing time last week. I think it was his usage or something was a little bit decreased, maybe because Gage is there and they're still kind of weaning him back, and they just probably didn't even care that they needed him that much. He was obviously chalk last week. He busted for a lot of people. Like Brady, this Pittsburgh team's in a blitz. He's going to carve them. So for that reason, I like Brady. Like Kyler for all the reasons previously stated. Mahomes is not going to be owned. which is kind of crazy to me in that basically with the total in that game. But Buffalo's D has been pretty stingy, but like Mahomes, Kelsey, it's pretty easy. Like just play it when you can, especially if you're going to get them at low ownership.
Yeah, the thing about the Buffalo D is they're getting healthier, and so
Yeah.
like they're getting back to full strength, and they're a great D there. But the thing is, you look at the playoff game last year that we just talked about with Josh Allen, right? Mahomes outscored him 43 fantasy points. Obviously, we don't have Tyreek anymore, but he's got weapons. I mean, he's coming off of a 30-point fantasy game against the Raiders just the other night, where he had 43 passing attempts. Like, he's going to have the opportunity to put up crazy numbers. This game, I mean, I don't think they get blown out or anything like that. If this game is competitive and both sides are going up, they both can run this game up, and that's what we're looking for. And so if Mahomes is only going to be a quarter or a half of the ownership of Allen, then man, give me Mahomes all day.
Yeah, I think Mahomes is a good play. I do wonder about Buffalo's defense, though. They kind of stifled Lamar, so they play that zone. But Mahomes he's not a running quarterback. Like he gets his most of his points through the air. So I don't know. I think at low ownership, he's a fine play.
So, like, do you think this game is going to be close?
Like my honest opinion,
Yeah.
For the ownership, I would play Mahomes, but I think Buffalo could roll them.
You think they're going to wax them?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking that if this game stays close, then Mahomes is just as good of a play as Josh Allen, and I think I don't see why they can't. They're just a small dog at home.
They're only 200 separated by it's 8,200 and 8K, right?
Yeah.
So you're eliminating, I don't know, the rushing equity for Allen. I think.
Mahomes has 4 rushes in each of his last 3 games.
Okay.
He's not the same rusher. I get it, but he's mobile. Like he has that in him. It's just that they don't do it enough.
He might be more willing, right?
Yeah.
Who was it? So we talked. Yeah, Josh Allen. Everyone's going to play Allen this week. He's a great play. Don't have to go into really why. It's a fantastic play. Like play Josh Allen when you can. Stafford, I think, is kind of interesting. Like if Higby's chalky, if Kupp's chalky, play some Stafford. I don't think the Panthers are going to get much of a pass rush, and that's kind of been his Achilles heel recently. Is like the Rams have no offensive line. So if you want to get up to Kupp with all this value, I think it's doable. I think Kupp's going to gain more steam as the weekend kind of rolls. I could be wrong though. Pickens, can we play Pickens? He threw the ball 50 times in Buffalo. Like if Brady's going to throw it 50 times on the other side of that, Pickett, not Pickens. Sorry, Pickett. The receiver's Pickens, correct?
Yeah, you can play them both.
You can play them both. I would say that they're both in play as a stack, but I like Pickett. I think he's good. He runs a little bit. I don't know if Tampa plays zone or man. If they play man, like I think there's more reasoning to play Pickett because he can use his legs a little bit. And then he's going to throw it as much as he's going to throw it. They're good running back options.
So what are you doing with Geno Smith?
Yeah, Geno's going to pop everywhere. He's fine. Like he looks like he's a stud out there. I don't. It's still Geno to me, but I feel like I'd rather play the Kyler side and just take pieces. I don't know, but Geno looks good, so that's the other side of it.
Pro Football Focus's number 1 highest graded passer
is Geno?
Geno Smith, which is crazy. And
I always thought he was like more. I always thought he was adequate. Like when he came in last year, he wasn't horrendous.
I don't know. It's nuts, but he does save you. It does allow for like the higher end running back builds. Like if you wanted to use Chubb, McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, if he plays, which, you know, these guys have monster ceilings when things go right. So it does allow for that. And, you know, it's the second highest total on the board right under the Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills and Mahomes. So, I mean, I have to like get on board. I have to mentally prepare myself to play more. The blitz has been all over it. I've been like thinking to myself, I know better. I'm and I
And
guess
you're just
that's
gonna get on. Yeah.
it's a mistake, and maybe I'm jumping on. He looked so damn good against New Orleans. Some of those throws he made were just ridiculous. He's got the two stud weapons there, with Lockett and Metcalf. So I'm on board for 5,700. I don't like
He's hitting every
aspect.
projection model. Like if you X Allen, he's coming out.
But that's the thing is like I want to use him differently. Like everyone's still going to play Ramandre, still going to play Benjamin. I want to use him to try to get up and play those high-end running backs and make some different builds here is the way that I would do that with Geno.
There are three other quarterbacks I think that are played. Burrow. Saints are missing a Lattimore. They're missing someone else on defense. So Burrow to Chase is going to be popular for higher stakes guys and just people in general, I would imagine, versus the banged up Saints. And then Trevor Lawrence, that game in the Dome in Indy, both sides I think are fine.
He's dead to me.
He's dead to you? Yeah. Well, you played him last week.
I played him so heavy last week.
Maybe you're pot committed at this point. Like you might have to play it.
No, I actually said to myself, he sucks. And when I was watching him, he is so freaking bad. Some of the throws he looked at last week for sure. He looked horrendous.
That's interesting.
And I gave him a pass with Philly because of the weather. But I can't there's no pass I can give him last week.
Is there anyone else? We thinking about any other?
The only other guy would be Kirk Cousins, but the only reason there is just because I just want to play Jefferson. You know what I mean? And I don't even need him to play, but it would just make sense for the stacks in that game. But it's not anything that I think there's so many of these good high end plays here that you just stay in this range. Don't try to get too different at quarterback this week. Get different at running back, at wide receiver, places like that. We can't play Taysom, right? 37 fantasy points. No, just craziness.
Absolutely a crazy score on that 444. I wouldn't have wanted or anything. I'd probably top 15, top 10. I don't know, in that range.
Sucks.
He probably did a lot of people though because he was chalky.
He's too expensive. So I immediately look to Yahoo and see if I want to use him at tight end, but he's too expensive. He's in play though, actually over there still, but I don't think it's a great play. I think he could. I mean, it would. Why wouldn't they just? I mean, Dalton has to help with Dalton again. Why wouldn't they just continue to keep using him in these ways?
I don't know why he isn't the quarterback at this point. Just let him play, dude. There's worse quarterbacks in the league than Skylar Thompson starting tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Let's move it on over to wide receiver. All right. So we're gonna have to talk about Tyler Lockett, how to handle this because what did he get? Did he even get a price increase? He was
no, he didn't. DK has been him, Allen, bunch of.
He got a price decrease.
Yeah.
After a 30 fantasy point game against New Orleans, comes in with a better matchup this week in the marquee game, and he got a price decrease. I don't get it. How does that what is the justification?
Personally, I think he's trappy personally. Metcalf's popping, Kenneth. All these Seahawks are popping. That's what makes me a little worried about Geno. This whole team's popping. I get their totals great. It's moved up 2 points. This game's great game environment. I don't know. Can we get away from Lockett? I feel like I'd play Lockett under the field.
Yeah. So you look at it. So he's too cheap. Number one, right? So he's the perfect definition of a cash play, right? High total game. I'm sure he'll be a cash game lock this week. Too cheap. He's 9th in air yards per game, 26% target share, all good numbers. There's been talk about it doesn't even really matter. Byron Murphy shadowing him, but I don't even know if that will happen, and I don't even know if that would even freaking matter if he shadowed DK Metcalf, which would then in theory open up more for Lockett. But I don't really know. The role is there. Obviously, you could you could pick one. You could pick DK Metcalf and roll with that, but they're both going to be kind of chalky. But Metcalf would probably come in like half the ownership, close to it, don't you think? I think it's going to be on DK. I mean, because of the price tag, 68 versus 5,600, and Lockett's had more production.
Yeah, his tag, Metcalf's tag, like people just prefer Lockett and the production. I don't know. I might just rather play Metcalf.
Yeah, I think for tournaments, that's the way to play
in tournaments. Cash, you're playing Lockett.
Steph Diggs should be chalky.
So, like, he's had bad games versus that team previously, but they're kind of utilizing him differently. So, I'm all in on Diggs.
All in on Diggs.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal play.
Gabe Davis is going to go off again.
You think so? I like Davis.
I mean, I like them all. I like Isaiah McKenzie. I like
Knox. Is Knox ever going to – this seems like Knox could get in the end zone this game too.
Yeah, Diggs, you go back to Diggs this week. 4th in receiving yards, 6th in targets, 5th in air yards, 1st in TDs, 5th in yards after the catch, 2nd in fantasy points per game. Pro Football Focus is number 3 receiving grade for wide receivers. And if you look at their matchups, he's got the 9th best matchup advantage for Pro Football Focus. I always hone in on the top 10. I look over there. So yeah, Diggs is Diggs, right? Like Allen to Diggs is like always super easy. What's Gabe Davis's ownership going to be like again?
He's not going to be as owned as Diggs.
He looks like he's going to, back for the few years, it would be like everybody would chase Gabe Davis, but they just don't do that anymore.
We can chase him, Gabe Davis, though.
If he's cheap, I mean, if he's coming in under 10% owned, why wouldn't we? Because
I think he's going to be around 10%, but it's still less than Diggs. It's that like you're playing this game every different way. So if you're not playing Gabe Davis, if you're playing Allen and not playing Gabe Davis, you're playing this incorrectly.
Yeah.
If you're playing MME.
Yep. Rondell Moore, let's talk about the cheapie, 4,200 in that game. I played him last week. He was fine. There was some left on the table with him. He could have done better. Did get 8 targets, which was nice. 68 receiving yards. Didn't have a touchdown. Did a couple of rushing attempts where he just lost yards, but they're looking to utilize him in creative ways. So I like that. And it's just really basically about the matchup here. Like they finally have, like, this is finally the Cardinals matchup, to exploit, right? Like everyone's been down on the Cardinals each and every week. They're getting incrementally better. They're getting incrementally healthier. They still started out rough. I think they started out rough last week. But this is Seattle's D. This is a different story here. So I think there's massive ceiling upside, like all over on this side on the Cardinals. I already told you guys I love Kyler, so I'm going right back to that. I
think you're talking me into playing Kyler heavy.
Let's go. I mean, if the only reason would be the height, right? And it would be if you're a short shamer, that would be the only reason not to play this guy. I mean,
Rondell, you made a good point. Like, he's another guy. Like, they utilize him. He looked like he was being more incorporated in this offense last week, and then he's a guy that they can give the ball to in end arounds. Like, you take Connor out, he can take up some of that rushing. I think the counterpart, Marquise had a great week last week. It could have been an absolute smash week. He dropped and it was like an over, like a dig route over behind the linebackers. He completely just whiffed on it. If he catches that, he's going for 75 yards. Like, there was no one near him. He was gone. So I don't know. I like Marquise. He's seeing a ton of just basically passes in that offense. Don't mind going to him at all on the higher end.
Yeah, I love Marquise. I mean, what's not to like? Just look at the last 3 games as they've been getting healthier, as they've been getting better. He had 31 fantasy points against the Rams, 17 targets in that game, which was ridiculous. Carolina, he had 11 targets, touchdown in that game, followed it up last week with 10 targets. Still was just under 100 yards in each of those last 2 games, but did have a touchdown in there. But, so just missed the bonus. Give him another 20 yards in those games, and he's off and running. This is certainly the matchup to play him with Seattle 31st in passing DVOA. I mean, it's so easy to just do a double stack here with Rondell, Hollywood, and Kyler, and then run it back with Metcalf. You could run it back with Metcalf and Lockett, and I'm sure many people will do that. You can run it back. I would probably run it back with just Metcalf. Would be the way that I would play it. Maybe play some Walker on that side, but I'd prefer to stay with the passing games on each side and just hope this game just shoots off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think all these pass catchers are very much in play. Chase is like, this is probably going to be the Chase week. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone. Like, who are going to play Chase this week? He's not going to be as high owned as these other guys, but in tournaments, like if you're playing just above like the $20, you're probably there's gonna be more allocation of ownership to Chase. Yeah, I don't know. What's Chase coming in at? Chase is coming in at Chase is very low. He's 6%. I don't care where you play Chase. I think you can play if he's gonna come in that low. You can just play him at 7,700.
Yeah, and the Saints, you hit on it before, but the defense is a little banged up right now. So
like everyone's going to go to Diggs and these other guys.
And Higgins is a little banged up too.
Yeah, Higgins. Higgins is banged up. Is Hurst banged up also? Like I think Hurst might have had a Q tag. I seen him earlier. So yeah. Chase is.
Yeah, he got in 3 limited practices this week. He's questionable with a groin, but looks like he's going to be playing. And he got an uptick with Higgins sidelined, but I don't know. I'm with you with Chase. Why not? If he's going to be low owned, absolutely. Give me any of these guys who can break a slate if they're going to be low owned.
Where do you think Cup's ownership lands? Do you have any idea?
What I'm seeing projected is 15%.
I think sites are coming in under, and he's going to come in way over.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to get him in.
Yeah, it's very easy to get him in. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to, I'd just play Cup at that point, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
like he'd be the guy you want to get to.
Dude is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's a bunch of good plays here. There's Debo. I'm always team Debo. Didn't have a great week against Carolina. Much better matchup against Atlanta. In the Dome seems like a good spot for him. Who else? Man, I mean, I looked at what do you think of Juju? He just sucks.
He sucks. Yeah.
So do you like MVS?
I like MVS better. I think MVS looks like he's under projected around the industry. The issue with MVS is I just don't think between the 20s he's great. Inside the 20s, I just don't think he has a ton of touchdown equity. Like he's more of a move space so Kelsey or Hilaire and McKinnon can run underneath type of guy in that situation. He needs to catch a bomb pretty much.
Yeah. He did have 8 targets, which was nice in the last game.
Mahomes trusts him more than he trusts Juju. And Sky, I don't know. Hardman seems like Hardman was getting looks. I prefer Hardman over Juju.
I mean, you got to think Juju's going to have a good game at least once.
Why? What's point?
I know, just because of his past. I know he sucks though. He does look like a different receiver. Looks stiff out there. So I don't know. I mean, and Kelsey's not going to get 4 touchdowns every game.
I can't believe he got 4 touchdowns. I don't know how you –
on less than 30 yards or whatever.
Your sole purpose should be to stop Kelsey in the red zone versus team. I would have 8 people on. he'd be getting hit by everyone. There's no way he should run freely like that. Let all these other guys beat you.
Christian Kirk took my soul last week.
He's going to be chalky.
He is? You think so?
Yeah.
I'm showing like 10%.
No, that's gonna bump. What are you looking at, the blitz?
I got sources.
I think he's gonna go.
I do aggregate.
Oh, I see where you're looking. Yeah, they're wrong. Their ownership is like ridiculous.
I do aggregates from a bunch of different places. Right now I'm showing like 8 to 10%.
Or it has been ridiculously bad for.
All right. Who are some like flyers out there do you have that or are you just going to try to keep it tight with all quality?
It seems like it's going to be maybe Mike Evans would be someone different. Some of these Pittsburgh guys, I think they're all in play. I don't think I'm going to go too off the board much at wide receiver. Like it's going to be pretty much all the guys. Mike Evans, maybe. Marquise. I feel like Marquise is off the board. Like, I don't know. People will probably end up playing him, but he's going to be lower owned than all these other high-priced receivers in these high-total games, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think I might just go all in with him. I might just go all in with Kyler. I mean, and it's tough that we're not talking about Tyreek Hill at 75.
We know anything about Skylar. Like, I didn't watch the game.
He looked decent to my eye, but he didn't do much. It just like he looked. I don't know. It was a weird game. But
there was a quote of him,
and Tyreek was hurt. They're both off the injury report. Waddle was banged up too. I think this is I think anybody could do pretty well with guys with like that to have those kind of weapons. Like they're just yard after the catch monsters.
There was a quote of him in the offseason. Some reporter asked him, like, who does it matter going from Mahomes or to who's their quarterback? That guy, Tua or whatever. He's like, I could catch passes with you at quarterback or something like that. So that's kind of what you kind of just pointed
with head chopper at quarterback.
Yeah, head chopper.
All right. Those are the plays. I'm gonna keep things tight this week, and I'm gonna hopefully I don't get too tired with UFC tomorrow. They already lost my favorite fight, so who cares? But I'm gonna give a couple winners before the show ends. Hopefully, at least who I bet anyway.
Are you going to New Hampshire?
I already did. I hammered a couple spots. One, and I hammered another one that the fight got canceled today because the opponent didn't make weight, and then they wouldn't do it at a catch weight. Anyways, all right, let's move it on over to tight end, and then we'll get to the Bobby's defensive segment, what everyone's been waiting for. But all right, tight end. We've got studs, right? So we've got, which is crazy to me, is that Mark Andrews is projecting higher than Travis Kelce at most places. It's not all places, at most places. Now, I get it. Mark Andrews is a beast. Absolute beast, right? Clear number one weapon, first of all. Bateman is out, so that's big. He's had at least a 25% target share in 4 of his 5 last games. He's first in receiving yards amongst tight ends. He has 46 targets, 32 receptions. And one thing to note, the only game that he got shut down pretty much, besides he didn't do much in the Jets game, and that it was a weird week for their offense, but was Buffalo. That is notable that Buffalo shut him down.
Who was this? Kelce?
Yeah. They shut down Mark. No. Buffalo shut down Mark Andrews, which I'm saying is very relevant for Travis Kelce. But and his price is cheaper than Kelce. But like Kelce's in the marquee game, It's going to be lower. He's lower projecting, so he's going to be lower. He has a lower projection with most places, and he's a higher price, so he's going to be lower owned, and that's crazy to me because like I want like every piece of this KC Buffalo game, and Giant like as much as I like the Baltimore Giants game and the way that Baltimore has been playing teams, I wouldn't be shocked if this game is kind of meh, like there's like both offenses struggle a little bit in this one. So I'm going to be higher on Kelsey than Mark Andrews, but I do get it. Other than that, I mean, what's not to like about Kelsey though? I mean, 4 TDs in the last game was just absolutely ridiculous. The Bills are tough against the pass, are tough against the tight end, but like, Kelsey's just a different beast. He's second in receiving yards amongst tight ends. He's first in receptions. He leads the NFL in red zone targets, which is crazy. Also leads the NFL in targets inside the 10.
Imagine having all this information at your disposal and just watching him every week as a defensive coordinator and not having 10 people on him in the red zone.
Yeah, I just don't know what they can do. I mean, he's just a beast. But I hear you. Like you would have thought that they wouldn't allow the 4th touchdown. Dude. By that point, after 3 touchdowns, you would.
I was losing my mind on Twitter. Losing my mind. It was tough to watch. Dude.
So then let's look at some of the lower plays. So Tyler Higby is going to be the chalk at 4,600 just because of price. Well, he'll be chalky with Mark Andrews, supposedly, but there's a great case there. So like he's tied for first with Kelsey in receptions. He's 4th in receiving yards amongst tight ends. He's first in targets, tied. And Carolina's been 25th in DVOA versus the tight end. So it looks like a good spot. He's kind of the safety valve for Stafford. He doesn't have that massive ceiling for sure. I mean, especially if you're sharing time with Cooper Kupp, that just crushes your ceiling, right? Like, so.
No, I'm with you. Sorry. I'm with you. He's going to be super highly owned. He's fine, though. Like, they're going to be in a lot of situations. Someone, I think, I was watching a show. RG guy, Alex Santi, was basically talking about, I think it was on another site show or whatever, that he basically thinks they're going to be in a lot of 3rd and long situations with the lead. So Higby could be more fine in that scenario just because, like, as chalk, it's going to be Kupp and Higby pretty much. They're going to have a lot of opportunity in the passing game.
Rams should wax him. It should be a Henderson game, but we'll see. I mean, the Rams do stink.
What are your feelings on Henderson? Do you like him?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been pro Henderson. He's just never had the full role, really. When he had the full role, he was produced. I think he's good. I think he's great in both aspects. Good. Get Cam Akers. I don't know what this deal is with Cam Akers. It all sounds weird. Like did he go off on a coach? Did he?
Something's going on there.
Yeah, something's going on. It's personal, and then they don't even know if he's going to be with the team going forward. They can't comment on that. So it doesn't sound good.
No.
Right? I mean, I was thinking, like, is it like a Draymond situation? Did he knock one of his teammates out? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Probably.
So, no, I get you. It's definitely a weird situation. Getting back on track with tight end, like Higby, Ertz, like those guys are fine. I think some sleeper plays, like obviously Mark Andrews is a very good play. Kelsey's a very good play. I like going back to this Otten kid at 2,900 for Tampa Bay. Brady seemed like he liked him. He's cheap. He's got Gronk's number, same size as Gronk. I'm not saying he's Gronk, but he looks like a good player. If Brate's sitting, I don't know he was questionable if he's in or out. Still would have some interest in Otten if he was in, but if he's out, then you're dead. I think Otten's a really good play. Hayden Hurst, if T. Higgins is out and he's ruled in, like he's been balling, so he's fine. Zach Gentry's another guy.
Yes, that's what I was waiting for.
You looked good last week, right? Did you watch that game?
He's good. He's just been behind Freiermuth. So, yeah. So, like, what if I told you that there was a tight end, there was a defense that snuffed Mark Andrews, but then allowed 6 targets, 5 receptions for 43 yards to Zach Gentry. Granted, the situation was a little different. A lot of it was coming from behind when the game was well out of reach. But I think he can play. I think he's good. He's cheap, dirt cheap. In a game where you want to be hopeful that they can stay in this one at home against the Bucks, which I think that's certainly a possible game script. And again, he's 2,600. I believe I think this kid's good in general. So I like him better than On. I think it was a better situation for him than On. It's just there's not enough options in Pitt. Like Pitt needs their tight end to play well, to be competitive. Like that's a big part of their game. It's certainly not going to be Najee Harris. I don't think in this one, especially with the way Tampa is against the run, they're going to have to stay in this game through the air, which is scary, right? Like they may just get waxed and may get blown out, but they're at home. They could certainly put up a fight in this one. And I mean, he's dirt cheap, 2,600. Count me in.
The industry narrative around Gentry is that he's not a good athlete, but I think he's like a football player. You know what I mean? Like he just gets open.
I think he's pretty good.
I think he's all right. I'm with you.
So
Dawson Knox, are we gonna? If he's gonna be low owned in that game, which it's looking like he might be, like this may be the week he gets the TD, gets off the schneid and gets in the box. So I don't mind going to Knox at all. I'll probably be overweight on Knox.
In their playoff game last year, had a nice 2.9 fantasy points. However, in the game before that, did go off against KC.
Any interest in the Seattle tight ends, Fant and Disley?
Yes and no. Like if it was a showdown slate, I would have like tons. Like that's how you always crank these in these island games. Always crank these tight ends up. But so yes, if I'm treating this like an island game, which I should be because it's the second highest total game. It's a way to get totally different. I don't really know what their ceiling is. Like Will Disley's, for example, I don't think it's very high, but certainly it could, for the price tag, they could pay off. It's a way to get different in the game, so I get that. I don't know. I'm not in love, but no. I would probably play Fant just because of his athletic ability.
I read one of the projections that I really liked Fant, so. Yeah, I'd probably. It seems like it's been Disley though. I don't know if something's changed within like last couple of weeks, but earlier in the season it was Disley.
Yeah, it's just so it's tough. Like they're both there. We have situations where there is no one else there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think I'm kind of in on Gentry now. The more I think about it. David Njoku, Pats have been bad against tight ends. This guy, another 6 targets for 88 yards last week. Didn't hit pay dirt. When he did hit pay dirt against Pitt, he had 10 targets for 89 yards. I mean, had a monster game. He still doesn't get played enough in my everyone. No one. He's not a sexy play because we've dealt with this guy for years. But this is certainly Browns games have been going off. They scored 28 points last week in that loss to the Chargers. They scored 29 points against Pitt. So Njoku has a monster role. Let me check his snaps. I'm expecting it to be very high, but
I'm still afraid to play him for whatever reason. Like I'm waiting for the donut, but I don't think it's coming. I think he's a different
85% of the snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, they do still have Harrison Bryant out there, but Njoku's just the guy. So yeah, he just doesn't get played enough. So I'm gonna bump him up and make a note too right now and play more of him.
Kittle 5-1.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So Atlanta, 8th most fantasy points per game to tight ends. It's just it's like we all have this vision of like this old George Kittle where he broke that slate to get all the, what was that slate like the end of the season when he went absolutely nuclear to like get his award for like the greatest.
I don't remember. I think I like kind of think
I've got like strong memories of that.
I know he won Cal Spears a millionaire maker. I'm pretty positive. Like his rookie.
But we used to like if you just go. I mean, this guy has not had a good game in a long time.
Last week they tried to get him involved though, so
yeah,
and his ceiling's massive.
And he looks fine. I mean, he only had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 47 yards. I'm on board. He's only 5,100. We know the kind of athlete he is. There has been positive signs, with his routes running and not just blocking. Like so he could erupt. Any of these guys, he could erupt. Like he's one of the few guys that could erupt. So yeah, I'm on board there. I don't really have interest for anyone else that I don't think that I think we've mentioned every single person that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Maybe Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry, yeah. You can that Zappy stack. Zappy, Henry, and Ramandre. Run back with Chubb.
I'm with you. All right. This is the viewers' favorite segment, the Bobby Gomes defensive specialist. Pick your defense.
This week, we're going with the Bills D at 2,700. I know it's the highest total game. Kirky hit on it, though. They play tight ends well. They played Andrews well. They're finally gonna do what every other team can't do and shut down Kelsey, or at least hold him to a touchdown. In that case, that's pretty much shutting him down after the 4 he had last week. But I like them. All these games where defense, nothing really stands out on for D. Like I feel like the Panthers are going to be the chalk D. But in all these games where there are basically going to be a lot of throwing, I'm going to have interest in the defenses because there's more of because of the lack of what I think are good defenses. There's more of opportunities for pick sixes and stuff like that in those games, with the throwing being as high as it should be. So Bills, Chiefs, Bucks, Pitt.
I always look at the ETR defensive line mismatches, and the Jaguars. The Jags are number 1 against the Colts, so that's a D that would interest me. Like Panthers are going to be chalky, but that's just because they're cheap and they're a pretty decent defense, I guess. But I think that's a fade. Like and there's levels of chalkiness. Like there's no play that's going to be like the Cowboys or were last week or the Bengals were that other week. It's going to be spread out this week for sure. I think the Panthers will be probably the most popular, not just because of their price and everyone likes the dumpster dive and Stafford hasn't looked great. But I think playing with PJ Walker could hurt this Panthers team. That is one game script at least. And the Rams could play better in this one, which makes me want to fade it. The Saints have a mismatch against the Bengals. 2,800. I think that's fine. You nailed the Buffalo. Your one. The Jags are 3K with that mismatch. Here's the lower owned cheaper play. I think the Falcons are in play this week.
Yeah, the Falcons. Their D looked good last week. Like they did a good job versus Brady. I could see them giving Jimmy fits in a way. Their D line's good.
Yeah, I'll pat myself again for the Patriots call, pat myself on the back, but unfortunately the Cowboys then made it a mute point by that point. But
they had 20. The Pats outscored them though, right? They had the 22.
I don't know. They were both right there, so it was like
it
was
didn't really
so
matter.
Close it didn't really matter.
Was a good call on the Pats last week, I will say. You were the defensive guy last week.
No, you were. You nailed your chalk Cowboys.
They were they were easy.
All right. What's your favorite stack for single entry tournaments? if you had to make one right now?
Oh, dude, I know you're gonna take Arizona.
Well,
Single entry tournaments, like I'm just playing Allen. Like what's single entry like? 500 people. Just play Allen. Don't overthink that. You can play You could play like a hybrid cash team in those tournaments. No, but my favorite GBP stack.
I mean, last week what won the freaking Millie Maker was just literally just a Bills double stack.
Yeah.
With the one chalky bring back.
It was the cash game QB.
And it was the cash game and then just chalk surrounding it. It was just basically Gabe Davis is really you just needed Gabe Davis and Lockett together in there, and Josh Allen you needed. And
in 150 quarterback, probably still like Allen, but
so just the lesson there is to just correlate your lineups and make it, even if you're correlating with one low-owned piece, that can be enough to get you ahead if that piece goes off. Obviously, there's other ways to do it too, and there's secondary correlations you can do where, like, you can take a running back from a different, like, say you wanted to play the different way, the Ramandre Pats game. You wanted to go Jacoby Myers and line him up with Chubb in the same game, right? Like, have that correlation, like one play like that. You don't need a stack, like you just have a mini stack included. Secondary stack. So, yeah, sorry. What were you saying?
I don't really like. I feel like it's just Allen for me.
All right. Well, for me, it's Kyler again, and I said it last week. I'm going right back to the well again. It's the double with Hollywood and Rondell, who's too cheap at the moment.
I would have tailed you on that, but I knew that you wanted.
You let me take it because
I'm a good guy like that.
Appreciate it, and I'll go with with Metcalf over Lockett on the bring back, and then try to get a little bit different with running backs. I'll see what I can include in there. I won't have Eno Benjamin there. So
you're not going to play Eno, really?
No, not in that stack.
Oh. Yeah, not playing in that stack would be the way to go.
Yeah. All right. That's the way I'm doing it. So sorry for the condensed show. Or how long did we still ramble on for? We probably took the same amount of time.
At the same time. Yeah.
No matter, I've tried for years to make when it was back when it was just JSU, Killer B, and me, I'd be like, okay, guys, we're going to keep this under an hour tonight. Like, no matter what. And like, we could never do it, no matter how hard we said we would. So it is what it is. We try to give our thoughts on the plays. Hope you guys like them, enjoy them. Sorry, JSU wasn't here for this week. Between you and me, he's had a couple of nooners, and a couple is all it takes with that kid. So we let him call out sick. We knew it. We knew what he was doing, but he'll be back next week for the Run Pure RotoGrinders collaboration show with me, Kirk Dees, and Bobby Gomes, DFS. We'll be back next week with JSU for week 7. This has been the Tournament Takes podcast, and we'll catch you next week.